What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. As of the making of this video, we've got only one day left before KIZUNA Clash officially begins. I've already made a video discussing the 10-star difficulty version of the KIZUNA, the generic bosses that you're going to come up against. Remember that the 10-star difficulty versions are the only parts of KIZUNA that will count towards the World Clash event. The super bosses, which we're talking about in this video, will not count towards the World Clash event. Just want to put that out there just in case if you guys get that a little bit mixed up. But today we're only looking at the 15-star difficulty super bosses and having a look at two different team variations for each fight up against the int version and the strength version. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Before we actually do that though, I guess we can talk about Garp because I haven't had an opportunity to discuss him. The interesting thing about him is that he's a super type and he has super tandem, which is really cool. So Garp is a Psi powerhouse free spirit. Captain ability gives a 3.75 times attack boost to Psi and Quick with a 1.25 health boost. Quick characters' Psi slots are going to be beneficial, and if the character becomes a captain in the middle of a quest, he gives them a further 1.2 times attack buff, and also makes his own normal attack super effective against all types. That's a really neat addition. You do not see that very often in One Piece Treasure Cruise, the ability to make something super effective against all types. Very, very rare. So the fact that this character has it as a free-to-play unit is actually pretty cool. And when he becomes the captain in the middle of a quest, he does become a very solid captain. Now, when you use him as a captain, you'll get access to super type. You need a Luffy, a Sabo, Ace, or a Sengoku in order to activate it. But the effect is pretty interesting. -2 to defense up on the enemy, and if you have an attack buff when you launch the effect of the super type, further increase the attack buff by 0.25. Otherwise, you're going to get a 1.75 times attack boost. And then he allows you to completely negate the effect of swapping of captains. So that's pretty cool. I like that there is the option to, switch him into the captain, which you get access to with his special. Of course, we'll go through in a moment. But then also to get a bit of utility and then attack buffing, and then you can just switch him back as a sub. Or you can keep him as a captain and get access to super effective against all types. Speaking of the special though, removing defense up and rainbow shield by 4 turns, and then changes his own slot into tandem and boosts the color affinity of Psi and Quick by 2.25. And if a Luffy, Ace, or Sabo is on the crew or as a support for this unit, he allows you to switch into the character position for 1 turn. So I like that because you can just use him on a team with one of those characters, or if you can just run him on a random team and use one of those units as a support for this character, you can still get access to it. Remember though that you do need one of the characters in order to negate his captain swap effect when he switches into the captain, so you do have to build around that. But overall, I like the kit. It's just a very interesting way of using him, and when you use his special in tandem with the super type, you're removing 6 turns of defense up, so that's pretty cool. And then his super tandem effect at level 5, which remember, he's a free-to-play unit, you're going to get access to it. In order to activate the super tandem, you only have to attack with 1 additional unit, and the other one is Luffy, Ace, Sabo, or Sengoku. The effect removing 2 turns of damage reduction, which means you can remove up to 6 turns with his special. Then he'll also give a 1.3 tandem attack boost to Psi and Quick. He just has a lot going for him, and he just has some interesting mechanics that I'm not too sure if he's going to be super good moving forward, but I just kind of like that this unit has some interesting mechanics that you don't really see too often in a free-to-play unit. Alright, to get things started, let's start talking about the first super boss, which is the versus int variation. So with this one, free spirit and shooters will get maxed specials, or not max specials, but -15 cooldown, and free spirit and shooters will get their super swap and their versus effect max charge, or at least charged by a decent amount, which is good. Then for Battle 2, this is the interesting thing here, is that the main enemy on Battle 2 has 10 million HP, but it does list that there's going to be 5 additional enemies. There's going to be 2 int enemies and 3 strength enemies. Each don't have that much HP, but the reason why they do this is because they want you to use the Ace Luffy Sabo combo of generating a lot of chain boosts on stage 2 to carry much of that chain into stage 3 due to Ace's special. That's the kind of way that it works. You can see that there's also attack down based on your chain if it's 3.0 or less, so you need to have some type of chain boosting mechanic on Battle 2. And there's also 2 turns of paralysis there. Now, there is an additional effect that says that if you stall 1 turn, if you choose not to kill the enemies on this stage, then all of your beneficial effects and accumulated values will be removed. 3 turns of attack down and 2 turns of special reverse will be left when you reach the final stage. So there's a lot of really nasty debuffs that occur, so best case scenario, you just beat the boss here, or you build a team that can tank the debuffs that occur if you just stall on stage 2. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. When you reach the boss stage, they can actually be inflicted with increased damage taken, which is good. They get access to super type, they special bind your middle and bottom row for 6 turns, your side characters are binded for 6 turns. There's going to be an attack down based on your chain if it's 10.0 or below, which is ridiculous by the way. However, it does mention that the attack reduction is only by 20%, so it's not as significant as you think, but the fact that they have that in general is just really nasty. I'm not a big fan of them doing this, just mitigating so much damage due to the fact that, you need to have a 10.0 chain or more, which is ridiculous. And in most normal teams, you're not getting access to that. With this team, we're going to be able to get some pretty decent chain, but we're probably not exceeding 10.0, depending on final tap levels, of course. There's going to be, all of your type slots are going to change into block, and also there's going to be intimidation. So any slot effect boost is going to be reduced by 1 turn. And there's also going to be any effect that is a conditional boost will also be reduced by 1 turn. There is going to be an interrupt based on base attack boost, so if you do that, there's 10 turns of despair. There is 1.1 attack buff given to the crew. Just nasty stuff, so just don't use a special that utilizes base attack boost. So with this team here, we can actually use Luffy on stage 1, because remember how he works. We need to use his special early, carry the buffs over into stage 2, hit perfects again, get the buffs into stage 3. That is the way that this team works. We can also use the Sabo special on this team on stage 2 to get additional effects, so that when we reach the last stage, we can get the huge color affinity, we can get the chain boosting mechanics, which is great. Also, the Chopper on this team, he actually does resistance down to the enemy, which can kind of mitigate the chain reduction based attack boost, and he also removes the special bind, which is great. Yamato to give us some Wano slots, we have Roger, which can give us the attack buff, and also Luffy can get access to super class, allowing our free spirit characters to get an additional statistical increase, and Yamato can give us super type to mitigate the enemy's super type. So when we reach the last stage, we actually have a lot going for us. By the time we reach the last stage, we'll have the big chain multiplicative boost from Luffy and his bigger orb boost. We'll have Roger attack boost. We'll have a huge color affinity boost, conditional boost from the Robin, as well as the ability to remove the paralysis that occurs on stage 2 due to the Bato support. This team seems okay, definitely not the best team to take on this super boss, but once again, I want to give you guys some ideas in ways you could challenge this boss, even if you don't have a lot of these newly recognizable characters that have come out during the global anniversary. Alright, so having a look at this team here, this is going to be, kind of like the same, against the same boss, but it's going to be utilizing a lot of the newer characters, of course. So with this team, we have Ace and the support of Cornelia and Kotatsu, which allows us to remove the bind that occurs on the final stage. And obviously the way that the team works is we're going to be using Luffy stage 1, that'll actually trigger Sabo for stage 2, and then we can use Sabo special naturally on stage 3. So we actually get Sabo special over multiple different stages, which is fantastic. We have Roger for our key attack boost. We have the Yamato for the conditional boost. Robin for the conditional boost with Bato support. And, I mean, even though Yamato technically doesn't really help us that much here, because she provides a chain boost, but she allows us to get increased damage taken, which is key. And her final tap is ridiculous, because with all of the chain multiplicative stuff that we have going on here, when you look at her final tap, when we reach the final stage, we get a any chain multiplier we have, whatever the chain is. Let's say if we're at like a 12 times chain, you multiply it by 2. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. So that final tap alone is worthwhile having the Yamato on the crew alone, because of all the chain buffs stacking with Luffy, Sabo, and Ace. This team should be doing pretty good damage, I would expect. I don't think it's the baseline, the best team to be using in the Super Boss, at least right now, but preemptively, it seems like it's going to do good damage either way, especially because so many of these characters are boosted units in the KIZUNA, so they're going to have boosted statistics, which is going to help out in the long run. Okay, so moving on to the strength super boss. Luckily, there's only 2 super bosses this time around, so it's not too difficult. But with this one, you want to build a team of either sight or quick units. Those are the units that receive the cooldown here. On Battle 2, there's the same thing as the previous fight, where there's going to be 6 different enemies. You have the main enemy with 10 million HP, but then you've got 5 other enemies which basically have no HP at all. There's going to be 3 turns of Rainbow Shield, so Sabo is going to be very, very key here. I actually have a little bit of a messed up here on this screen here. It should be Sabo as the friend captain for this one right here. Sabo is going to be very, very key because he'll be able to remove the damage reduction there. And once again, there is an attack reduction based on your chain, 3.0 or below. And if you choose not to kill the enemies on this stage, they're going to remove your beneficial effects, attack down, and special reverse. The exact same mechanics on the previous fight. However, when you reach the boss stage, there's actually not as many gimmicks that you have to take note of. So there is enemy super type, there is full immunity by the way, 5 turns of damage reduction again, so there's 3 turns stage 2, 5 turns stage 3, so the Sabo special, which can proc on stage 2 and on stage 3, is going to be very important because you can get the special launch twice to remove those gimmicks. There's also 3 turns of Threshold, which is very, very annoying. It's kind of annoying that it's 3 turns, it's just, you know, obviously they want you to use the new support. And once again, an attack reduction based on your chain, 10.0 or below, but it is only 20%, so they're not removing a lot of damage, but it's enough to where it could definitely be annoying depending on your team comp. And there is intimidation based on chain lock and also base attack boost as well. So ideally, if you're going to use a base attack boost, you're going to be careful. You want it to be more than 1 turn. And also the chain lock, which we ideally using Sabo, we're going to have the full chain lock when we reach the last stage anyways. So with this, with the way that it works, we would ideally use Luffy's super type on stage 2. Because if we have a chain boost before we activate Sabo, we get a 3-turn chain boundary, and the chain boundary is more significant. And by activating a chain boost with Luffy's super type, Sabo will auto trigger when we reach the final stage. So that's the way that we're going to get around that. So we have Sabo and Luffy super type activated on stage 2. When we reach the final stage though, we have a lot of specials. We're going to have Luffy special for the attack boost. We have the Beckman and Lucky Roo, which can actually buff the chain boundary of Sabo as well as give an orb boost. We have the conditional boosts of Robin and Usopp and Yasop. Usopp and Yasop can also give us some resistance down for shooters and free spirit characters, which is pretty good. And then also we have Sugar, which can allow all the characters to transform into toy soldiers, and whilst doing this method means that we can't get access to Super Tandem, the chain multiplier will be pretty much increased by like a pretty good margin, I would say. And I'm not too sure in this attack order who would finish last in terms of the final tap, because final taps will still activate with Sugar. Ideally, you'd actually want Robin to attack last, because with Robin's final tap, it is very similar to Uta's, where it is multiplying the final tap chain by 2.25. So Robin actually has fantastic synergy with this quick team. Being the final tap allows her to do so much additional damage because your chain is going to go through the roof and Robin is going to hit very hard. Unfortunately, I don't think Robin is a boosted unit on the KIZUNA, so she doesn't have the double stats, but if you do have a lot of chain multiplicative, chain addition buffs, chain boundaries, then Robin's final tap is going to be amplified by a pretty big margin as well. So a pretty decent team to get you started for this KIZUNA. And then moving on to a team with a lot of the boosted units here, we're going to be using Sabo as our main captain with a friend captain, Final Tap Luffy. So this is like more ideal if you have everything. You can run this synergy because you can use the Anniversary Luffy and Final Tap Luffy on the same squad. And with this team, it's going to be very similar to what we had before. Of course, using Luffy earlier on, that's going to trigger Sabo for stage 2. We can use then Sabo again in stage 3 whenever we like. And of course, we will also go ahead and have the Luffy super type, which can give us a chain boosting effect. We have the 2 conditional boosts with Robin and Usopp and Yasop. We have Ace for his chain buffs as well, which can last multiple different turns. This team is just going to hit super hard. We have super type with Luffy, super class cerebral with our Sabo, which is not as ideal, but still we can final tap with Robin and she's going to hit really hard, especially when now we have Ace, Luffy and Sabo all on the same team giving all of the chain addition buffs. Robin is going to be a very hard hitting unit in this particular team, and I really just cannot wait to jump into this KIZUNA and just see how much damage we can do. And of course, the teams that you see in this video are probably not going to be the final teams that a lot of people are going to settle on in Super Boss KIZUNA. KIZUNA. And of course, as things progress throughout the event, I will bring you guys additional videos talking about some different teams that should be able to get the job done. Unfortunately, it is dependent on how my levels of final taps and super tandems of certain characters are. In this team example here, you know, if you had super tandem completely capped out, this would be a ridiculously good team. I think like super tandem Shanks from the Film Red Super Sugo Fest, he will still be a very good option in this quest, because if you have that super tandem at level 5, it makes the team that much more ridiculous. So there's going to be lots of things to look forward to in this event. But overall, that is pretty much going to wrap us up. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Other than that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.